one of the great lessons of the Writer's Bridge is that it's really easy to build a platform. I mean, we have 1,700 people who are signed up, and these are high value names because they're all writers and they're all specifically interested in us. And all it took was delivering excellent content of high quality for an hour every other week for a year for free. Right, Brendan? Yep. And so because my background was in street performing, a lot of my life has been about you provide what you can to everyone, and the people who can afford to pay you subsidize the people who can't. And so that has been the mainstay of my writing and editing practice as well. I want to provide as much information as I can, as freely as I can, as often as I can afford the time to do, while still saving time for my own work and my own writing. And then hopefully people will like me enough to also pay me for stuff. And thus far, it has kind of worked out. And one of the things I've discovered too is that, you know, we're all at different income levels. We are not all the people who can afford to spend, you know, $3,000 or $5,000 or $9,000 on a developmental edit. We are not all the people who can afford even to just buy a professional editing software program that would fix extra typos. And so that's one of the primary reasons why I wrote a book. I wrote it because I tend to say, oh, your turn, your turn. I wrote this book online. Ashleigh is currently doing the ring card girl walk, and she looks amazing. It's the ring card girl walk, yeah. Like, I feel like maybe we should do the next Writer's Bridge in bikinis. I got to tell you, nobody wants to see this. I quit circus because I was getting too old to stand in identical spandex outfits next to two 24-year-olds. And so a lot of what this book is it's the stuff that I tell every writer who I do a big, fancy, possibly expensive developmental edit for, but it's in steps that you can take home and you can do it yourself. And if you tweet me because you have a question, chances are really good I'm going to answer it. Because both Ashleigh and I really believe in responding as much as we can to as many of the people as we can, because our writing is fundamentally, and this is going to sound really cheesy and lame, but it's consumer driven. We are reader driven. We are interested in talking to the people who need to hear what we have to say. And we have to go to them. If you are writing the book for grieving mom does not have time to come find you, because grieving mom has grieving to do. If you are writing the book for got cheated on woman needs you to find her. She doesn't necessarily have time to find you. And while, yes, we want the beauty of our writing to capture people's hearts and cause them to run around and go, wow, this book is amazing, you have to read it. We also want to let everyone in the world know, hey, this book is here. You should get it. It will help you. It will be something that will make your life better. And you guys are all here because every single one of you has something to say that will make your reader's life better. Whether it is you entertain them for a moment with a humorous story, whether it's you captivate them with the beauty of your words, or whether it's you provide some advice or show an example that genuinely solves their problem. And so building a bridge to your readers, it's not about being an influencer. It's not about being super pretty online, although Ashleigh does that really, really well. It's about being honest and genuine to the people who need to hear your voice.
Hello?
Is it a working microphone? Well, that was anticlimactic.
So. No. Yes.
Is it on?
Well,
Do the thing where you tap it. No?
it is, but it's not as loud as this.
Okay, so we'll just keep passing that back and forth.
We're cozy. We're cozy. Like Allison said, and we're going to take a lot of questions from all of you, anything that you want to know about building platform, any of the different options that we have now for reaching our readers. It can be really overwhelming, but we can also look at it as an opportunity, because it is easier than ever for people to find anything online. And if we are there providing support, entertainment, encouragement, then I think that we are the people who should have that boost so that our words get to as many people as possible.
So we have a starter question for today, and it's our question of the week from Stacy. Stacy asks, I feel really overwhelmed trying to pitch, write articles, build social media, which involves a learning curve, especially on Instagram, read books to review, write reviews, build Goodreads, build website, and work on my new project. I'm so worried I'm not getting everything done or done right that I wind up doing hardly anything at all. I signed up for an article writing class to give myself real deadlines, but I still feel overwhelmed with feeling behind or lost. Suggestions for scheduling and scheduling my anxiety would be so helpful. Ashleigh, what would you tell? And does anybody else feel that? Overwhelmed? Overwhelmed? What do I do? How long do I do it? Yeah.
So I come from a sports background, figure skating, and in sports, the Olympics only occur every 4 years for a reason, because you can't do everything every day and expect for that to be sustainable. So periodization is the program that we use in sports. We work on strength during this period. We work on getting work on getting a first draft out. We work on editing. We work on pitching during this. So I really like to look at it as what is the focus, what is going to be the concentration for this 2 months or 3 month period, or even maybe it's just 4 weeks you're taking in the summer, but what is the primary focus going to be? And then what are the other things that you're going to fit in like 15 minutes responding to direct messages or going on Twitter, and just getting really clear that there's no way any of us can do all of it all the time, but what is the priority right now? Is it getting through a draft so that you can get it to your editor, or is it getting those bylines because you think that's going to be the next thing that's going to help you up level?
Those of you who follow me on Instagram may have noticed that my posting has dropped to about once every month now that I'm getting ready to put out a book, now that a book is happening. It really helps to focus on quality over quantity. Ashleigh has an audience that is expecting to hear from her every day because a lot of her audience are not diehard readers and they're not diehard writers. My audience is diehard writers. They are not necessarily expecting to hear from me every day, and they're not going to randomly unfollow me just because I've been quiet for a week or two. So I really try to focus on, let me write one really nice Instagram essay and post it this month. And that way I've also had the experience of writing something lovely and short and practicing my own writing skills as well. As much as you can, make stuff do double duty. That book that you're reviewing for a friend, can you pitch that review as a blog post? Can you post that review to Amazon? Can you make it an Instagram post? Can you tweet the best line from your Instagram post? And that book that you read for your friend, you don't have to read the whole thing. And I say that with love in my heart, but that's the deep, dark, dirty secret of blurbing. Your review or your blurb is more valuable to your friend than you reading every single page. It is better to flip through that book, find something you love about it, and say it positively in as many venues as you can than it is to get to the end of the book. You'll get back to the book, but your friend needs your momentum. And that's all deposits in the bank of goodwill. You're on. Hey.
And for any of us to have a writing career and have longevity, any sort of activity, we're going to have activities that bring us joy. So if skimming your friend's book so you can get that blurb to them, so that you can check that off your list, leaves room for you to read that new thriller that you know will just fill you up with so much inspiration that you're going to want to go right to your manuscript, even though you're writing a different genre, and do that. In order to choreograph 12 programs a year for my skating teams, I would block off a chunk of time, but every single day I would start with a meditation and a jog with my dog, because I knew whatever I choreographed during the day that I forced, if I didn't take care of myself in the morning, was going to be crap that I would have to change. Writing is the same thing, right? We have to be in a place where we can let it flow through us. So taking good care of yourself, doing the things that are fun. I do a lot of documentation on Instagram rather than creation. And I check in with my audience with my stories. Yesterday, I was pulling into the parking garage here, and there was a big lineup because the ticket machine had to be manually recalibrated. I've never even heard of this. And I really had to go pee. So I got on my Instagram stories and I was like, I am in a parking garage and I feel like I'm going to pee myself in my car. And maybe this is time I should tell you, I once peed in the economy parking lot at Philadelphia International Airport. It's time to
Ashleigh.
And I said, where's the weirdest place you've ever peed? And then people, yeah, I have like hundreds of responses of people on the question sticker in my stories. And this is the same thing when I say, hey, I'm making chili. This is what I put in. Do you guys have a secret ingredient? I'm not a cooking influencer, but people want to say, yes, you should put cocoa. And then I'll go, I tried cocoa. And yes, everybody should do it.
Cocoa's awesome in chili.
It's amazing. So it's just this interaction of like, I'm a real person who's has to pee and I'm in the parking garage and I like chili. And people are like, I like chili too. So just being on there casually just gives people some entertainment and some sense of community. Especially there are a lot of tricks on Instagram stories where then you can share the responses and then everyone feels like they're kind of in on the joke. So there's a lot of ways that you can really be there for your audience without having to set up anything or edit a photo.
And what this means for you as well is take all the opportunities you can to talk to your audience. It does not have to be a beautiful photo. It does not have to be a perfectly crafted tweet. And at the very beginning, you are going to get a lower level of response. It takes time. But when you focus on these genuine interactions, you're more likely to have a meaningful experience with somebody who is later going to either buy your book or recommend it to somebody else because they don't feel like your customer, they feel like your friend.
And that's what we talk about a lot. That's what we talk about a lot when we are online telling people what we care about. We want to make those connections so that they feel like friendships. They feel like friendships. And so many people have said, Brooke was like, you have to read my friend Ashley's book. And she's like, I call you my friend. And I'm like, because we are friends, Brooke. We are friends, even though we're online, we've never met in person before. Because I
know more about Brooke's pubic hair than I know about a lot of my friends.
Yes, we are close. We are close. Because here's the thing. My audience I'm not just there for them, they're there for me. When I'm feeling like, what the hell was I thinking writing this book? I'm coaching soccer in my township. Like, are people going to read this? When I have 4 DMs every morning from men who say, your book is helping me see my wife differently, and it's helping me reimagine what we can have in our marriage. I'm like, fuck the other soccer moms. It's all okay. It's all okay because I know
you could live stream that.
I can. It's all so the audience too. Being there and responding to people, it does take time, but it's a two-way street. It really is a bridge because then you get that encouragement that you need. And when people are like, what? You're like, oh, wait, maybe my message didn't hit the way I thought it was going to. Every time I make a little video on Instagram or put out a caption there on TikTok, the feedback I get lets me know what the next draft's going to be. Because I'm telling the same stories and giving the same advice over and over, just in slightly different ways, putting a different slant.
And this lets you practice your material. We're going to ask for questions in just a moment, by the way, if anyone wants to gear up and start thinking of their question. One of the great things that street performing taught me was, did the joke not get a laugh? Try it in a different way the next show. What happens if you put this other word at the end of the sentence? What happens if you put a word with a K or a P in it? Because words with K and P are funny. Pickle jackpot. And so you get a chance to practice your material. Marian earlier tonight was saying that thing about, sometimes we get stuck on, well, what will people think? And that gives us an excuse to not write our book. Practicing what to say in your other platform, whether that is social media, whether that is writing a column for your local newspaper, whether that is giving a speech at your church. Keep practicing what you have to say, and it becomes easier and easier to write it when the time comes. Got any questions? Yeah. So that gives us a chance to let you guys know what the heck is an Instagram comment pod. So you may have heard about the bad kind of Instagram comment pods, which is where people either pay to be in a pod or people pay to supervise a pod, and everybody has to like everybody else's stuff, and there's a million people on the keto diet in your feed. That is the bad kind of Instagram pod. We coordinate a series of Instagram pods that we would welcome any of you to join that are basically, it's a direct message group on Instagram. It's got between 15 and 20 people in it, and every single one of them is a writer. And each time you post to Instagram, the other people in your pod go and like and comment on your post. What we find is that rather than this kind of like fake, oh, like, and you can actually get like an auto liker extension in your browser that will like 1,000 Instagram posts for you. It's really sad. What we find is that the people in each other's pods actually get to know each other as people and as human beings. They support each other's writing. They share each other's books on their feeds. It's basically a common interest group that you've been assigned to, like Girl Scouts. Yeah.
Yes, but grown up and mature and less catty and all of those things. It's really wonderful because then you really start learning from each other and bouncing ideas off each other. So they've been wonderful. And I'm sharing a room with one of my pod members tonight, and I've got so many friends.
Yeah,
here.
I see like 4 or 5 pod members.
Yeah, from getting to know people better. So yeah, just go back 5, Leslie.
Yeah, we have a question in the live chat that I can't read because I was too vain to put my glasses on.
Okay, and I have my contacts in. Allison, your book, you, an editor and writer, writes 7 drafts. How does the writer move into the editor perspective? How does the writer look farther back with that eye?
How do you switch from looking like a writer to looking like an editor?
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of it is time. It really helps to set your manuscript aside for anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months and come back to it, because the number one thing that makes us better writers is time. And when you come back 6 months later, you will look and go, oh man, I wrote it like that, but now I know that I can write it like this and I can write it better. And it's a really good sign when you look back at a previous manuscript and you think it's crap, because it means that you have improved as a writer tremendously since the last time you wrote that manuscript. Andrea, I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Yeah, right in the back there, Leah. For the people watching on the live stream, Leah's fabulous question was, I started my Facebook 13 years ago and my family's on there. How can it possibly be my writing Facebook now?
Okay, so we talk a lot about what different platforms are really good for. So Facebook is great for groups. It really is good for finding your writing community and also finding the niche groups that relate to the topics in your memoir. Like Allison used the example of grieving mothers, of women who have suffered adultery. You know, if that is you, if you relate to that story, being in those groups is a way that you can just make genuine connections and not do self-promotion, but just learn more about what that audience, what that community needs, and also to learn what they're getting from other places right now and what they're not, and where your unique experience, your unique genius fits into those gaps. We all need a Facebook author page, even though it's a waste of time for most of our career.
No one will ever see the posts you put on your Facebook author page unless you pay for them. And yet you need a Facebook author page.
Yes, you need it so that when you want to run Facebook ads or Instagram ads, because they all go through the Facebook business portal, that you have that Facebook business presence. That's all. That's just how Facebook gets your money.
Yeah, some of it is, if you are really private on your Facebook, learn how to use the privacy settings so that you can keep your family from seeing things you don't want them to see. And also look at how much do you want to be public? I mean, we've said before, if it's truly private, don't put it on the internet, you know, because they will find it eventually. Like Marian said earlier tonight, it does not matter how obscure the literary journal in which you publish your essay, eventually that person you wrote about is gonna find it, you know? So just embrace which parts of you want to be public, which parts of you want to be private, and know that that's good practice for when your book comes out. And all of a sudden, a bunch of people who know you are going to get to see your innermost thoughts on the page.
And you don't have to be fantastic on every platform. If you
Yeah.
love being on Twitter, and was it Twitter and Instagram? Awesome. There you go. There you go. I suck on Twitter so bad. But Instagram and TikTok, I got it.
Dave, what's your question? Dave asks, Instagram has been shifting from photography to video to the great consternation of many photographers and creators, and has indicated that they're kind of doubling down on video. It's mostly to compete with TikTok. And Dave asks, how can we handle that and how can we make compelling video?
Yes. Okay.
You give the like to make video answer, and I'm going to give the hate to make video answer.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Best of both worlds here. Okay. There are a lot of clever ways to get your prose across in animation, so it's technically a video. If you look at my Instagram, all of my quote cards are technically videos because there's a GIF of me. It used to be Taylor Swift, and then I figured out how to GIF myself. Yep, exactly. Or I'm like,
It just keeps repeating.
there we go, Allison, live GIF right here. So it actually gets fed out by the algorithm as a video because it's a 5-second repeat GIF. So that's a trick. I would love to take some time to take like the best literary essays. I would love to make a TikTok of the Crane Wife. Like I would love to. I think I could nail it. And I would love for people to see how if you want to tell a good story and you want somebody on the edge of their seat, you can tell a kick-ass story in 30 seconds. And you can just record it on the video and say the things you need to say succinctly. So I like how it's pushing me and it's pushing other creators to say what you need to say and say it quick. I don't lip sync. I don't dance. You know, I'm talking about the things in my book, in my videos. So those are some. Being in your Instagram story space camera really casually is a way to get more comfortable with that. I think as writers, especially as memoirists who are just going to be like hidden away, you know, people are going to know who we are. When our books are super famous, we're going to have to do interviews. Anything that we can do to show that we can connect with people on all the mediums that are available to us, I think will help us.
I do not really enjoy making videos. I find it tedious and it takes up too much time and I'm not very good at it. And when I'm not very good at things, it makes me feel like I hate them because hating them is easier than feeling like I fail at them. I suck at video. I'm going to own it. I suck at video. So I do Instagram stories with video. And a lot of times it is like me on like a really dark filter, just randomly talking into my phone about what I felt like talking about. It's called the good night message. Some of you have probably seen it. But I just don't do a lot of videos. I once spent like all afternoon making a video about the 3 things you shouldn't put in your query letter, which you'll find out about tomorrow in my querying workshop. Wasn't that a nice segue?
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
So good.
So it was so smooth.
So
Yeah, I'm fucking it up now though.
silky smooth.
So I just don't do it. There are other ways that I engage with my audience. What I have discovered is I freaking love teaching on Zoom. Absolutely love it. Absolutely have a great time with it. And all the Writers Bridge people have really made me love it even more. And so I spend the time that Ashleigh spends making videos, I spend that time making PowerPoints. And I put some of those PowerPoints on Instagram. There's a whole like presentation about editing in my like little Instagram highlights things. So pick the thing you like to do, because there is no point in spending your time on something you don't like, because it will look and feel fake and you will waste your time and have a horrible time doing it. You know, so I would say if you don't love video, don't do video. Because writers are not influencers. It's not our job to get pushed out by the algorithm to as many people as possible. It is our job to reach the specific people who are our audience. And in that way, it's actually more important to drive away the people who are not our audience as it is to end up in the feeds of those people. Yeah.
Well, that's sort of Instagram's game. They just steal everything good from other platforms and somehow convince us all to consume it there.
And if you do like making video, learn how to batch it. You know, so you have like a day where you take all your stuff and you do all your editing in a row, and maybe there's even some of it that you can farm out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the first jobs I gave to my 21-year-old niece when I hired her as my assistant before book launch, was to caption all my videos. That's something that can really help a lot.
Okay, so we have a great question in the room here for those of you on the live stream. Why are stories good when you can't hashtag a story? And Ashleigh, you're going to tell us that. And I'm just going to really quickly say, because I don't know if all of you are as conversant with hashtags as Ashleigh is, but I am not. And so I will say that a hashtag is like a big card catalog in the library. And so when you look up your book, you can look it up under bees or under honey or under hives or under apiary. And hashtags are like those categories in the card catalog that if people want to look up all the posts on bees, they can type bees into Instagram and it will show them all the posts on bees. I feel much smarter now.
Okay, so first, something about hashtags, because it's a little in limbo on Instagram. Instagram hashtags on stories used to show up on a story feed for that hashtag. Like when I was doing KonMarie in my house, I would do hashtag my KonMarie, and I would get like 400 extra views on each of those stories. Instagram has really pulled back on how they let content go out quickly on hashtags because of misinformation and related to the election, pandemic, things like that. So now when you can add hashtags to a story, but it's not actually going to go anywhere right now. Stories are for the people who already follow you, or for people who see a post that you just posted and want to go and say, okay, what is this person about? That's what I'll do. If I see a post from a creator and then I go to their account, I will go right to their stories and see if they were active on their stories that day and what their content is like. So that's just a way to say like, hey, I'm here often, because it does expire in the 24 hours. You can set things up as highlights. I rarely go to people's highlights. That's sort of just my check-in on like, how often are they active here? So one of the things you will see when you start posting in your stories, even if you just post like 2 or 3 little clips a day, is that people will start watching them. You will be able to see a view count of how many people watch each slide just by tapping on the little icons of their faces. And if you start asking questions, you will get a response. If people respond to your stories, your little story bubble is going to show up sooner on the algorithm feed of all the other people who follow you. So I'm in my stories quite often. Last night, a few hundred people told me the weirdest place they peed. I think the worst one was in a dressing room at H&M, but she said she wasn't proud. Okay, but anyway, so Instagram, because they saw, oh wow, a lot of people are interacting with this story. Instagram has no platform has any way of telling if anything is good. They have no way of vetting anything. So what they do is, are people engaging with this quickly? Yay. And then they pump it out to more people, and stories is the same. So more of my followers then saw my story bubble. You know, the story bubble is like at the top of Instagram, because everybody know what I'm talking about there when you're on the mobile app. And then I got a ton more views than I would normally get, or it was like high for my average, just because I had a question people were interacting with. And I do find I actually get higher engagement on my Instagram stories than I do even on my email newsletter. Also, my audience, 2/3 of my audience is under 35. So that's something too. They're younger than me, but that's who gravitates to me.
So we shouldn't stop doing posts.
Don't stop doing posts, but you don't have to post every day. Like Allison's active in her stories almost every day.
Yeah.
Even though she's
And I
posting
find
once
that
a month.
even when I'm not posting very often, if I'm active in my stories, I still get follower growth and I still get more people. And I find that they like that kind of casual interaction. There's something intimate about it. There's something like friendly about it because it's very unstudied. It feels like you're genuinely talking to your genuine friends. You know.
And when they respond, it's not a post that anybody else can see. It goes right to your direct messages. So they may feel more willing to respond to something vulnerable or truthful, but they wouldn't put on an Instagram post, and they certainly wouldn't put on Facebook. Instagram feels more intimate than Facebook. Because you know your friends and family, you can see whatever. Whereas if I comment on your Instagram feed, the only people who are going to see it are your followers, not necessarily my connections and family. But then in a DM, it's that extra layer of intimacy. That's where I get a lot of questions, like really, really vulnerable questions. And that's why I put in my bio, your online big sister. So like, it's like, I don't have anybody else to ask this to.
Yeah, it's the transience, I think, of it that is actually appealing. Yeah. We have a question in the chat about when they hold up a book in their Instagram stories, it gets mirrored. And how do you solve that mirroring issue?
Okay, so there are a couple things. You could take a video on your camera app and then upload it to Instagram stories. Whenever you're on Instagram stories, in the bottom left-hand corner, there will be a tiny little square, and it will be the last photo from your camera roll. So if you tap on that, then you can upload any photo you've ever taken that's on your camera or video. You can upload videos there too. It'll be 1 minute maximum, so and it'll be in like 15-second slides. You can go to each slide and add a caption or a sticker or something, or delete one you didn't want. But that's one way to do it. I think that we need to trust our audience, though, that everything is mirrored always, so people can read. People can read a mirror image really easily now. So you don't necessarily have to do that. If you like the filter you're using on Instagram stories, you can press the little down icon to save it to your camera roll, then go to edit and flip it, and then re-upload it if you wanted to.
And Ashleigh is going to make a tutorial of this and post it to her Instagram.
I will absolutely do that for you.
We have a really great question that came in on the live stream from Mary Catherine. She says, so what about this situation? You know that part of a book proposal where you have to talk about your resources already in place for marketing your book. I know that by the time I am ready to submit my full manuscript and my proposal, I'm not going to be exactly impressive in that segment. I won't have a ton of Twitter followers. I won't have a bunch of other marketing channels. So one, if I know the writing will be good, so I will shine there, am I just out of luck if I don't have an impressive platform? And two, if there is one thing I can do between now and when I submit my materials to fill in this platform deficit, what do you two suggest?
Ooh. Okay.
Brian says hi, Mary Catherine.
That is a good question. Okay.
If you are primarily a good writer, if you're a very good writer, spend your time focusing on making your writing as good as you possibly can and getting essays into publications. Ideally, you want to branch out from literary publications into more mass media. You want to get into the New York Times, the Washington Post, Mary Claire. Don't worry quite so much about the big guns like the Sun or the New Yorker or something like that. They're hard to get into. Like, don't cross them off your list. But if you are pursuing platform before you publish, start with places that are a little bit easier to get into. They publish more often. They publish more pages. So I would say pursue publication first, because a good record of literary publication can help your book find a home at a literary press or a small or medium-sized press. And you don't need the same kind of platform that you do if what you're writing about is a really catchy subject. If you've got catchy subject, start building more social media, mass media. If you've got amazing writing, focus on your literary platform, get speaking engagements, go to conferences, get prestigious residencies like Hedgebrook or Yaddo. Ashleigh?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the reasons that I pushed harder social media with my book is because this is a commercial memoir. It's a commercial memoir, and I like reading.
It has a naked lady on the front. That's how you know it's commercial.
Amazon won't even let me do ads because this cover's too sexy, but anyway. Maybe I should have done a little more research before. Okay, but so I wasn't like, okay, bylines are my ticket to anything, right? Do I wish I had some bylines? Yes. Does my audience on TikTok buy my book? Yes. So I wasn't trying to be something I wasn't, right? I felt a bit like an imposter coming into publishing and being like, all right, I don't have an MFA. I've been a performer and coached performers. I've told stories before, but now I'm using words. And I wished I was more literary, and I wished I liked those books. And I was like, okay, wait, but those people who are going to buy my book, they're not into literary writing. You know, they are some of my people who love my book are like, I haven't haven't read a book since 50 Shades. Well, you know what? They opened their wallet and they bought it and they love it and they're giving it to friends. So I just had to get really honest with myself about the audience that's loving my book, even though, you know, I just be honest with what it really is.
Yeah. The best platform is where your readers are. The absolute best platform is where your readers are. I built a lot of this book out of brevity blogs. I mean, I literally sat in a hotel room and I pasted every brevity blog I had ever written into a document and went, okay, yes, this one, not that one. This one sucks, but the idea is okay if I rewrite it. Yes, this one, not that one. And then I wrote other stuff to fill in the gaps and get it all around. And I hear a lot from people, you know, like, oh, well, if I put my work out there for free, is anybody going to want to buy my book? If you're writing literary, having about half your book published or a little less than half your book published is a really good sign. If it turns up in essays, in literary magazines, even in mass media. If you are writing a more commercial book or a more specialized book, it's great to put out as much information as you can. Give it away for free, and then they will come pay you. If somebody wants to go through brevity and print out every single one of my blogs for the last 6-7 years and put them in a pretty binder, they deserve their free book.
Absolutely. And my content that gets the highest engagement and that people ask me to give them even more of is the stuff that I have been writing and talking about for years. People need the same encouragement over and over. And every time I get a question or a direct message, I think, oh, I could explain that a little bit better. I could tell that a little bit better, you know, the same stories. So don't be afraid to get it out there. Social media is such a low stakes way to like work through your drafts of how you're going to say things. Even if it's like, oh, next time I write it, I'm going to take this one sentence that really I felt like landed really well, and I'm going to, you know, extrapolate on that for a new piece. It's just a way to get it out there. And honestly, even if nobody comments or engages in it with it, you are going to feel different having it out in the world than just on your laptop. So as soon as you hit post, you're like, oh, I would have changed that. I would have. So there you go. You have an idea for a new draft. Don't delete it. Just like open up that document on your computer and go, oh, this is how I would say it now. And I love too that Facebook and Instagram and Twitter all have different character counts. So I'll take a piece that was a blog post or a newsletter, and I'll be like, all right, and this is how it's going to go on Facebook with this many characters. This is how it's going to go on Instagram. And I'm like, all right, but the different size pieces of this. And it just lets you understand, it lets you investigate what you love about that story and what parts you really think are going to resonate with your audience.
Social media is just another form. Eli.
So Eli asked for people in the live stream, he writes both fiction and nonfiction, and he's wondering, as he's building platform, does that complicate things or is there a benefit? What do we think of that?
I think that you should be a Renaissance man, Eli. It's really handy to keep in mind that your brand is not your book. You are your brand, which is kind of like a crappy way to think about it, but you are the person they want to get to know. Fiction writers do not have great luck online with posting about their book, or even posting, like, a lot of people want to try and set up an account as their character. It's like, dude, nobody cares that much. You know, I say that with love in my heart. Let people get to know you. Talk about your process. Talk about, I went to this cool writing conference and heard these like weird ladies talk way too late at night. Talk about, I went to this cool podcast and listened to Brendan talk about awesome authors. You know, talk about your writing life and whatever parts of your personal life you'd like to share. Because that way people will go, oh, that person I like wrote a book. You want to get them engaged in you.
So
content buckets. Watsky's prodding us onto content buckets.
So this is what we talk about when we're saying, like, okay, what the hell do I share about? Okay, readers want to know about you. They want to know about you. Even if it's your book that they're going to buy, They want to know if Amy knits, okay? They want to know if my husband cooks most of the time, but hey, I'm making chili tonight, I want to hit it out of the park.
They want to
Right?
know if Lisa's still in a cult.
They do, they want to know these things. So what we talk about is content buckets, like the 4 or 5 different buckets that you share about. So I share about keeping monogamy hot, how to get my kids to clean the house, because nothing makes me prouder than child labor, and rehabbing a shabby marriage. Okay, those are the things that I share about. And it's because those are the things when I started renegotiating my relationship with myself, those were the parts of my life that really changed. How I could interact with my spouse, the way I parented, you know, all of those things were really, you know, those are my wheelhouse, because those are things I've like looked at and like not been happy with for a really long time and really was able to transform. So those are the things I like sharing with people about and that they really resonate with.
And another way to think about this, we did a thing a while ago on Facebook called the Magazine Cover Challenge, which is if you, the writer, were a magazine, what would the cover of your magazine look like? What would those headlines be? What would be the monthly feature that reoccurs every time? And it can be a really fun challenge. Take a picture of yourself that you like, or at least don't actively hate, and make yourself a pretend magazine cover. What would be on there? What do you love to talk about? What do you love to share about? What community groups are you already affiliated with? Because all of this is part of who you are. All of this lets people get to know you better.
And think of it, take a look at it, like do a few drafts of it, right? Think of it like, what are your verticals like in your life? Because when you first sit down there, you may be like, I don't know. But then start thinking like, okay, what do I do every day? Oh, I love going to the dog park, you know, or I love volunteering, you know, at the dog shelter, or what are the things that make you you? And when you are documenting instead of curating and creating all the time on social media, it is more fun. It is more spontaneous. I have tried batching video content and they usually get deleted from my phone. It's like the Instagram gods are like, no. And when I do post them, they don't get very much engagement. It's like when I jump out of the shower and I have a towel on my head and I'm like, before you get a divorce, part 12. And I just riff on something that my husband and I do when we're arguing. And I say to him, you want to fight? Like when it's starting to get tense, that's one of my most viewed videos ever, because it's just funny, it's relatable, and people share it, right? They share it with their spouse.
And these content buckets are also what you're going to pitch essays about, what you're going to write articles about, what you're going to write op-eds about. These are the things that you care about, that you want to talk about to the world. So this is the stage in the Writer's Bridge where we always take about 5 minutes of breakout time where writers get to meet and network with other writers. So we're putting our online group into some breakout rooms, just meet each other, say hello, get to know each other, share your socials, and say what you're writing about. And we would invite you to take a moment here, talk to the people on either side of you, find out what your socials are and what you're all writing. Take a moment and chat amongst yourselves. And welcome back from the breakout rooms, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary persons. We hope that you all got to meet some interesting writers and we'll follow them on social. We're going to go ahead and take our last 5 minutes here because the Writer's Bridge always starts on time and it always ends on time. We'd like to give you our top tips, and then we're also going to just give you some quick information. We do this as a regular thing on Zoom. It is normally in the afternoon on Eastern time. There is always a replay afterwards, and once you're on the list, you can also look at all of the previous episodes, which Ashleigh has laboriously documented so that you can scan through and go, oh, what I really need to know about right now is newsletters. What I really need to know about right now is, you know, Instagram stories or whatever it is that you're currently looking for. If you go to the workshop description of this event in the Hippocamp conference site, there's a link there that says RSVP if you can't come live. If you go to that link and sign up, you will be on the email list and you will get all future links. We will also be sending out a follow-up with the link to this recording and with a link to sign up and join Instagram comment pods if you would like to try out being in an Instagram comment pod. It's low stress, and if you hate it, you don't have to stay. But we've had a lot of people make some really nice friends in them. So let's do our top tips. Ashleigh.
My top tip for all of you, and I think this has made the biggest difference in my confidence and my certainty that I have something to say that people are going to give a shit about, is to identify your comp accounts. So comp accounts are like a comparative title or comparative author.
Like you would have in a proposal, except your comp authors don't have to be recent, they don't have to be great sellers, or they don't have to be not great sellers. You have a lot more leeway in your comp authors than in your official comp titles for your proposal.
Because these are the people who are reaching the audience you want to reach on a daily basis, okay? Whether it's through awesome tweets or a great newsletter, or they are rocking it on Instagram, whatever it is. I had notifications on my phone for 2 years for my comp authors, and I had my phone like up my butt. So every time they posted anything, I would look immediately and see, what are people interacting with? What are they liking about this post? What other information are they asking for? What other support do they want that this writer can't give them? Liz Gilbert can't give marriage advice, right? Because she can't stay married. Or she didn't.
No shame, no shame.
Yeah. Glennon Doyle cannot give sex advice because she's been very clear that that is something that's very, very hard for her to be comfortable doing, never mind talking about. Okay. She also doesn't give parenting advice besides embrace your messy life. What if you want your kids to clean the house? Okay, so there were people on these posts, because those are two of my comp accounts, who were asking for these things, and I was like, I know these answers because I live these answers, and these are the things I talk about with my friends, and I talk about with the families I coach skating to, and this is my wheelhouse. So that is where I was certain, okay, wait, yes, every story hasn't been told. Every person is not being served by these people who are selling millions of books. I have a place here. And finding those comp accounts, it's not to emulate them, it's to find the gaps. It's to find the gaps and figure out where those gaps intersect with your experience and story and the things you really care about. And by doing that research, and so it's not mindlessly scrolling, it's like intentionally looking on those accounts and going, what are people asking? What is being answered and what is not? For me, helped me to shape the book, helped me to shape the things I share online, and reminds me every day, yes, I need to keep sharing because people really are finding value in what I'm giving them.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian?
You can, yeah. There's a little bell in the top right-hand corner. Now, there are a couple different versions of Instagram out there because Instagram rolls out features with no rhyme or reason. So you may have to tap the following, and then it'll give you an option, or there'll be a little bell in the top right-hand corner of the profile.
Before our last word, I will also say that our next meeting is going to be August 31st. We are normally on alternate Tuesdays, and next meeting, we are going to be talking about agents, getting an agent, working with an agent, what to do if it's time to break up with your agent. And if you sign up for the list, you will get notification for that meeting. I'm going to say my last top tip for you guys is tell your story. Trust that there is more where that came from. You are not using up your material if you put it on social media. You are not wasting your readership if you publish an essay that's later going to be in your book. You are a writer and you have a story to tell, and you're going to tell it a bunch of different ways. So don't wait. Tell it now. There's more where that came from. Thank you guys for being here tonight.
Thank you.